I am at Battle of Bosworth Field. The big fight between the Lancastrians and the Yorkists. Richard III and Henry VII, I believe. Edward VII. Oh, my history's terrible. I might be wrong. I might edit this out and start all over again. Well, I normally research stuff before I come, but I've come to this place at Bosworth Battlefield a little bit blind, or don't know all the facts. There's a few I know, but obviously not them all. Well, I think we'll start this by doing the sensible thing first. Oh, I'm losing my pants, it's not good. And I'll check out some of the plaques. That'd be a good start, wouldn't it? Like this again, right. According to this first plaque, plaque number 2, this is where I start the trail. I don't know whether you know it, but Richard III's body was actually found under a car park in Leicestershire. It's very hard to walk, hold a camera and not look at it. And that's how the last take just happened, that I weren't looking at the camera, or the camera weren't looking at me. So we'll start the walk here. So it says on the plaque it'll take us about an hour to walk it, but I'm in no rush. So just take our time, read the plaques, find out a bit more of the general history of the Battle of Bosworth. I am approaching the '17th plaque. I think I'm doing this the wrong way round. The Battle of Bosworth heralded the dawn of the Tudor age, the War with the Roses, the White Rose and the Red Rose. After the turbulent reign of the Tudor monarchs, England would never be the same again. The Church of England was founded and the British Empire was born. The battle was first called Bosworth Field in a letter written by Henry VIII in 1511, but was given many other names as well. The day after the battle it was called the Field of Reedmore, but because Market Bosworth was the nearest town to feature on a map, the name Battle of Bosworth soon stuck. There you go, I'll let you read that, read it for yourself, pause or whatever you want to do. The plaque I just read was probably at the end of the trail, so I'm going to right back to the beginning and start at 2 and work my way around in numerical order. Perhaps I should have looked at the map to begin with. That was 17, where we've just been. One's in the main, I'm assuming that's the visitor centre, which unfortunately is not open. This is number 2, and now I'm going to go to 3A, because apparently there is no 3. So we'll load up this way. I'm assuming it's up here somewhere. It was proved, I don't know, 10-15 years ago by the famous Channel 4 programme Time Team, which I'll try and put a link in the description below. The Battle of Bosworth was not actually the Battle of Bosworth was not actually on this field where we are now. I think you've just got the side of my face there, or not even my face at all, because I've got to get used to working with a tripod. Well, what's it called? A selfie stick type thing. That's interesting. Some pictures from my Instagram. Looks like a massive sundial just there. So I shall take a few stills of that. I'll put it in the video as well, but I should probably put them up on Instagram. I don't know whether you can read that. I shall read it because I can't even see it on my camera. On the 22nd of August 1485, over 1,000 men lost their lives on Bosworth Field. This monument commemorates them and the many thousands who were killed during the War of the Roses. Try and read that to you. The last of the Plantagenet kings, slung naked across a horse, Victor leads his tired army to Leicester, and the day's deeds are recounted. The dead king's body is viewed by the masses before the Greyfriars put him to rest. Greyfriars monastery, I believe, was in Leicester, and that's where they found his body. Under a Leicester car park where the Greyfriars monastery, I don't know what to call it, church, chapel, whatever it is. They call it a monastery because I don't know what else to call it, because that's where the monastery was. Bodies strew the field, blood soaks the ground, and the screams and moans of the injured filled the air. Away from the carnage, a new king is crowned. God is praised for the unlikely victory, and the Tudor dynasty begins. Richard III weren't really a good king. I believe he imprisoned his nephew in the Tower of London, just to give him more access to the crown, but I'm not 100% on that. I'll read that. Cannons blasting their shot, snatching men from the ranks. Storms of arrows finding their prey. The surge of men towards their enemy, the ring of steel on steel, and the dull thud of steel on bone. Spurs right back in a desperate charge. With victory in sight, treachery unleashed, a king falls. I'm assuming they're talking of the death of Richard III there. Early in the morning, men prepare their souls and their equipment for the forthcoming battle. Sounds of stones on blades and murmured Latin. My poetry bit's just gone. I'll read that again. Early in the morning, men prepare their souls and their equipment for the forthcoming battle. Sounds of stone on blades and murmured Latin prayers are soon drowned out by the din of the drums, calling the men to muster. Really so peaceful up here. I don't know whether you can hear the birds singing and twittering away in that yard. It's a really good place to relax, especially this time because there's not that many people about. A few people walking their dogs. Just the distant roll of the traffic in the background. It's really nice. I'm beginning to feel glad that I actually come. Right, let me tell you a little bit about Thomas Lord Stanley, whose bench I'm going to sit on. So I'll explain this little bit to you. Now, Lord Stanley, he weren't sure what side he wanted to be on, whether he wanted to be on Henry's side, or did I say Henry? It might have been Edward. Henry's side. Let's call him Henry for now because I can't remember. Henry's side or Richard's side. Now, can you imagine the armies in the battlefield, one end, one the other, and Lord Stanley sitting in the distance to the middle of these two armies, deciding which side that he wanted to take. He obviously he weren't going to, that's the word, party we any of them until he knew that he had a good chance to be on the winning side, which is what he did. He stood and watched the battle and let it get on to see who won, or who was on the winning side, or whose odds were favoured. I'm going to go to the aforesaid view of where the battle, or they think the battle actually took place. What are these trees? Anybody know? Looks like fig. I'm not 100% sure. Apparently this view, as you can see it, I'll see if I can frame that, is where the landscape may have looked in 1485, where the armies may have been at the start of their battle. I'm going to read to you first, and then I'll let you pause. I'm going to turn the camera around to you, because since the 1780s it was thought that Battle of Bosworth was fought on Ambion Hill. In 1985, Colin Richmond challenged this, using an early 16th century document describing a chapel for the Bosworth dead at Dadlington, to suggest that the battle was fought on Dadlington Hill. Peter Foss and Tim Parry then recorded the name Reedmore, the location given by the citizens of York the day after Bosworth, in a medieval charter associated with Dadlington, proving that Redmore must have lain at least partly in Dadlington Township. Further documentary and landscape research by Foss led him to conclude that the battle was fought on the low-lying ground around Fen Lane to the south and west of Ambion Hill, with good evidence of early marshland and moorland, a logical meeting place for the two armies, and partly lying within Dadlington. Now just let me thingy on the marshy part. It was actually the marshy part that was the downfall of Richard III. It's said that his army rushed forward, and in rushing forward the marsh sort of stopped and toppling horses and slowing men down. From 2005 to 2010, Leicestershire County Council and the Battlefields Trust undertook a survey to try and find the battlefield. The survey results, which include an area of medieval marsh, a scatter of lead cannonballs, broken military equipment and a Ricardian boar badge, prove that this area is indeed the most likely location of the Battle of Bosworth. I believe that's down there somewhere. I think that's where Time Team was when they did their excavation and found all their... I can hear thunder. This is not good. That's where Time Team were when I think they excavated this field, or the field partaking next to it, and found all the cannonballs. The battle. A rebel army wins the day. On the 22nd of August, I'm still recording. On the 22nd of August 1485, Henry Tudor brought a small rebel army to face the much larger royal army of King Richard III. Writers of the time mention a marsh between the two armies. The Stanleys, whose loyalty to either side was unknown, I'll just explain that to you, were positioned between the two armies. I explained that to you. Oh, my memory ain't that bad. But to one side, probably to the south, I weren't sure what area were, but I knew. The Earl of Oxford led Henry's main army round the marsh, attacked King Richard's right flank, commanded by the Duke of Norfolk. One writer describes the heavy gunfire from the King's artillery, forcing his manoeuvre by Oxford men. Eventually, the Earl of Oxford defeated Norfolk's army using a wedge formation attack, and the Duke was eventually killed close to a windmill. Meanwhile, the Earl of Northumberland, probably on Richard's left flank, did not move, possibly because the marsh in front of him and the standing on his flank, on seeing Henry advancing, Richard and his mounted knights charged across the battlefield trying to kill Henry. At this point, William Stanley attacked Richard's army, and the king was killed, surrounded by his enemies. I'm pretty good at this history of my life, you know. Let's say you can possibly... Can you hear the thunder? Pause the video. And read it for yourself. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'll just take a still, probably put a still of this plaque next to this in any case. Well, this video might be cut a little bit short. I hear thunder, I hear thunder. Do re mi, whatever the song goes, I can't remember. But it's not good. I don't like thunder. But I'm a good place to take some stills of lightning, if it happens. Right, we'll follow this lead rail. There's another plaque here.
Please turn me till the message plays.
There you go, did you hear that? This is interesting. No message. Oh, perhaps it's broke, or it's full of water. So, in fact, I'm going to read it to you. In 1471, the Battle of Tewkesbury saw the Yorkist King Edward IV as the victor of the main phase of the Wars of the Roses. However, 14 years later, after Edward's death, the war started again. Henry Tudor, the last Lancastrian, it was the Lancastrian and the Yorkist, I believe, that's what the battle was, raised an army against King Richard III, who was actually the king. The king summoned his knights and lords from all over the kingdom to help him defend his throne. Only his most loyal supporters turned up to fight. One of these was the Duke of Norfolk.
Bows well oiled, and I've checked all the flights and heads are secure on my bundle of arrows. Hope I have enough. My spare bowstrings are safely under my hat, and my short swords razor sharp. But let's hope they don't get close enough for me to have to use that. Those of us who aren't so good with a bow are armed with war bills and halberds. They're heavy, cruel weapons. But the lads are strong and tough enough to use them. I reckon we could be fighting very soon. And I don't mind admitting that I'm more than a little scared. No one's really talking about what might happen later. But I wonder how many of us will not survive the day. Me and the lads from my village, we're all preparing our weapons for the coming fight. My long bow's well oiled, and I've checked all the flights and heads are secure on my bundle of arrows. Hope I have enough. My spare bowstrings are safely under my hat, and my short sword's razor sharp. But let's hope they don't get close enough for me to have to use that. Those of us who aren't so good with a bow are armed with war bills.
Please turn me till the message plays.
Well, I think that's enough of that.
Please turn me till the message plays.
I'm not turning it anymore, I'm knackered. So thank you very much. Listen to the thunder. Right, I'm on my way down here now. I don't even know where this path leads, but probably leads somewhere. We'll find out. There you go. Look at the views of the Leicestershire countryside. I wonder what that church is right up there. I don't know whether you'll be able to see it. There's a church somewhere up there. Now whether you can see the Red Admirals. But these are the Red Admirals. I should have been a bit faster with my camera there. To this day. So that's the man that had his sons murdered? Strange. No wonder my daughter called him an evil king. Well, that there is what King Richard looked like. I have to read that. Richard Plantagenet, Duke of Gloucester, son of Richard of York, and the youngest brother of King Edward IV, was a popular Yorkist nobleman. He enjoyed a successful period as Lord of the North and fought alongside his brother at the Battle of Barnet and Tewkesbury in 1471. He became king after Edward's death in 1483, but this was not without controversy. The fate of Edward's sons, known as the Princes in the Tower, oh, it was the Princes, I thought it was his nephew, in the Tower, who had disappeared once he took the throne, is a mystery to this day. So that's the man that had his sons murdered? Strange. No wonder my daughter called him an evil king. Jesus, I don't know whether you can see all them black clouds up there. And hear the thunder rumbling. It don't look healthy. And I'm here, just in a vest. I got a feeling I'm going to get soaking. Be nice to see some lightning. Probably be really beautiful now. Well, I'm going to sit on here under this not so old oak tree. Definitely oak, but it's quite a young one. And have a cigarette. Somebody's put flowers there. I wonder what they've been put there for. Interesting. Okay. I'm off under the old oak tree. The young old oak tree. Right, I'm just on my way to another plaque. Give you my tour of Bosworth battlefield. This is a picture of Henry Tudor. The other one was Richard III, this one's Henry Tudor. Henry was a minor Lancastrian nobleman living in exile in France, where he and his uncle fled after the Yorkist victory at Tewkesbury in 1471. Though his mother, Margaret Beaufort, he was ninth in line for the English throne. He had attempted to take the throne in 1483 before Richard was crowned, but his plan failed, leading to the execution of the Duke of Buckingham, formerly Richard's right-hand man. There you go. A little bit of history. I don't know much about history, but it's good to have all the plaques all around. What can I say? Perhaps I should have took a photo of that for Instagram. Okay, I'm going back. And we have another plaque. I'm just heading towards it now. And I will take a photo of the gap for Instagram. Oh yes, folks, I meant to tell you folks. Oh, why did I say folks? Peeps. I meant to tell you I have Instagram as well now. So log on, look at my pictures and enjoy. This has got to be Lord Stanley. Yeah, that's Lord Stanley. Thomas Lord Stanley lived in Lathorne in Lancashire, and amongst his many titles was King of the Isle of Man. I didn't even know the Isle of Man had a kingship. He was very powerful, and along with his younger brother Sir William was the force to be reckoned with in northwest England, as Thomas was the steward of the royal household for King Richard. He should have supported the king in battle. However, as he was married to Margaret Beaufort, Henry Tudor's mother, his loyalties were somewhat his loyalties were somewhat divided. Thomas declined Richard's request to come to Leicester and sent his son and heir, Lord Strange, in his place. Richard took the young man as a hostage to ensure Thomas would stay loyal. Well, perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps Lord Stanley wasn't the one that stood on the sidelines and watched and decided which side he was going to go for. Hey, this I'm learning, same as you, I suppose.
For King Richard against some bloke called Henry. We're all missing our families and the comforts of home. I can tell you that's no fun bedding down in hedgerows and ditches every night for a week. Last night we slept up on the hill. We could see the campfires of our enemy. They don't seem that far away now. They chose me because I'm very handy with a long bow. I took my weekly training very seriously, but never thought I would actually use my bow in battle. I'm worried. And as for my wife and children, well, you can imagine how they feel.
Please turn me to the message played.
Good day, dear. My name is John, and I'm a Norfolk farmer. Last week, one of the Duke's captains came to my village and chose 10 of us lads to come with his lordship to fight for King Richard against some bloke called...
Now I'm going to find another noisy plaque for you, providing there is some. There you go. Looks like there's a plaque up there. Maybe I'm wrong. No, it's not. It's just a post. That's interesting. I found this really old railway bridge. Cast iron, probably Victorian. I shall ask on my railway forum what it is. And what it was built for. Looks like it could have been a walkway, maybe for cattle or something. But you can understand why the council have blocked it off. See all the rot on it. It's a shame. You'd think they'd redo it, wouldn't you? There you go. So, okay, I've run out of battery power on my GoPro type camera, so I'm going to have to use my Fujifilm camera. It's HD, it's not 4K, I don't know, I'm going to have a go at mixing HD and 4K together at the end of the video. Right, I shall start again. Archers were the backbone of the English army. From the late 13th century through to the mid 16th century, the low-born English archers destroyed the nobility of France in the early part of the 100 Years' War. But in the Wars of the Roses, the armies were evenly matched. Both sides had large numbers of bowmen. A group of archers positioned by the white fence to your right could easily reach you where you are standing now, and their heavy bodkin arrowheads would pierce any form of medieval armour that you were wearing. And the white fence is way down there. At least I've got a zoom on this camera. Another thing that featured strongly in Battle of Bosworth was cannonballs. Fire and brimstone. I shall read that to you. Both handguns and cannons was used during the War of the Roses. Jean Molyneux, a Burgundian writer, tells us that Henry's mercenaries came under fire from the king's artillery, forcing them to abandon a formal assault and attack Richard's right flank, a manoeuvre which ultimately contributed to Henry's victory. An important scatter of lead cannonballs had been found in the battlefield survey, and those can be seen in the exhibition centre, which is shut unfortunately. Experimental firing has shown us that solid cannonballs would be fired over 1 kilometre, therefore a lead on the cannonball fired from the white fence to your right would easily kill you at this distance. Well, the white fence is way down there, even further. And on the Time Team episode, I believe that it showed you them experimental archaeology, they called it. It actually showed them shooting the cannons and actually making them, which is really interesting. And probably anyone is standing behind you, so the cannonball would probably go all the way through you. Well, I'm now heading up towards somewhere where I can copper squat. And copper squat, I'll be sitting on a bench, not copper squatting. Copper squatting will be on the floor. And there's another plaque right next to it which we shall read in a minute. Unfortunately, folks, I'm nearly at the end of my batteries. I've left my rucksack in the car because I didn't think I was going to need it. I thought I could easily get an hour's walk and an hour's worth of information on both the cameras that I bought. So this will probably be about this. Hack and slay. Most 15th century soldiers fought on foot. The poorest wore padded jackets and iron helmets, while the richest would have a full-on harness of iron plate armour. The hand weapons wielded by these men were designed to cut, crush and stab the enemy. The main weapon of many foot soldiers was a pole arm, such as the warball, wardbill or halberd, which when used en masse could repel a cavalry charge. Most soldiers would also carry a sword and dagger for close combat fighting. The only shields used were small round bucklers, so there was little protection from arrows or artillery. And I'm assuming that there is a reconstruction of the halberd. Well, that's like a replica of the sword they used to use. Let's read it, shall we? Born to war. At the time of Bosworth there were around 1,000 knights in England. Knights usually came from high-born families and were supposed to uphold the code of chivalry. Boys who were destined to become knights were trained for war from an early age. Many men who were rich enough to become knights declined the honour in order to escape the responsibility of the civic and military duties it entailed. These men were known as esquires or gentlemen and could be as well trained or equipped for battle as the knights. Sometimes these esquires were knighted after a battle. They were knighted even though they didn't take part in the battle? Oh, that's a bit weird. Well, there's a bit of a dilemma. Which way do I go? The bloody aftermath or towards the battle? I think I'll probably go to the battle and then work my way back to here. Well, I think I'm going to have to be really quick here because now my batteries are running low, which is really unfortunate. Commanders of the time usually divided their armies into three parts: the vanguard, the main battle and the rear guard. The vanguard often led the attack, followed by the main battle and then finally the rear guard. In other battles the army were arrayed in a line, and this was the way we believe Richard's army was assembled. Henry's much smaller army, however, was divided into two parts, seemingly working independent of each other. We do not know how Richard's artillery was deployed, like the archers the guns would have been in front of or on the flanks of the infantry. Henry had archers, but we do not know if he had artillery, although the extent of the cannonball Scott found on the back of his chest he did. Cavalry would have secured both flanks. Well, I'm seriously running out of time, so I might have to cut this video short. Here I am talking to the side of my face and not my face again. Never mind. I might have to cut this short because I'm seriously running out of time. That's disgusting. Poo bags. What's wrong with putting them in the bin? Yak. Never mind. These things are sent to try us. I should hate to be the man that cleans them up. Sir John the Savage. I don't even know whether you can see it. Or am I just going crazy? I don't know whether you can see it. And Earl of Oxford, it looks really dark on the screen, perhaps you won't not be able to see it at all. And now I'm regretting not bringing my torch, so I've not bought extra batteries and not bought my torch either. Okay, sorry peeps. I don't know. I think I've already read this at the top. I think it's more or less the same plaque, but I'm not sure. Oh, can you hear the thunder roaring in the background? So I'm not going to read it, just in case I already have. And besides that, my battery's running out. Well, that's interesting. I believe this is part of the battlefield line. I think they have a steam train that runs, well, not on this bit obviously, but on the bit further down, and it crosses the canal. Now another thing I regret not bringing my magnets, because they're in the car as well, so I've got no batteries, no torch and no magnet. I've been down that way and now I'm going up to the bloody aftermath. By the end of the day, over 1,000 bodies were strewn across the battlefield. The surviving soldiers stripped the dead of anything valuable before burying them in mass graves, both on the battlefield and at Dadlington Church. The barber surgeons would be fighting to save the lives of the injured, while those too gravely wounded would be put out of their misery by their comrades in arms. Among the dead was King Richard III himself. His naked, mangled body was thrown across the back of a horse and taken to Leicester. There it was publicly displayed to prove the king was dead, and was then taken to the grave by the Grey Friars for a hasty burial at their friary. I said monastery, didn't I? At their friary church. Henry was unofficially crowned as King Henry VII at Stoke Golding by the Stanleys. The area today is still known as Crown Hill. And there ends my little history tour of one of the biggest civil wars that Britain has ever seen. The Lancasters and the Yorkists in all their glory. If it wasn't for Henry claiming the crown, the monarchy wouldn't be what it is today. Having won the battle, Henry needed to secure his position as king. Most surviving Yorkist leaders were executed or imprisoned, and the lesser folks had their lands confiscated. Those that supported Henry were eroded with titles or estates taken from the Yorkists. For his personal protection, in September 1485, Henry formed the Royal Bodyguard, the yeomen of the guard, from the common soldiers of the victorious army. They were commanded by the Earl of Oxford, who had led Henry's forces to the battle. They were present at his official coronation at Westminster Abbey in October 1485, and took to the field with the king at the Battle of Stoke in 1487. Well, apparently that building over there is King Dick's Well. The cairn was built by the Reverend Samuel Parr in 1813. It's on the site of a spring which would have once provided water for the medieval village of Ambion. Which lies between this spot and the Heritage Centre. According to local legend, King Richard III's last drink was of water from this spring during heavy fighting in the battle on the 27th of August 1485. The Latin inscription erected by Reverend Parr translates as, "Richard III, King of England, slaked his thirst with water drawn from this well, then engaged in a most bitter and furious battle with Henry, Earl of Richmond, and before being deprived of both his life and his sceptre on the morning of the 22nd of August AD 1485. The monument was extensively refurbished in 1964 by the Fellowship of the White Boar, now known as the Richard III Society. In 1577, Raphael Holinshead wrote that King Richard pitched his field on a hill called Ann Beam, refreshed his soldiers and took his rest. Although evidence is scarce, part of Richard's army probably did camp on this hill the night before the battle, and Richard may well have commanded his troops from the lower slopes of the hill. However, we shall never know whether the King of England really did drink from the spring water from here before he was killed on the flat ground, some way after the southwest of the hill. Well, this is interesting. It is actually a well. On near this spot on August the 22nd, 1485, at the age of 32, King Richard III fell fighting gallantly in defence of his realm and his crown against the usurper Henry Tudor. The cairn was erected by Dr. Samuel Parr in 1813 to mark the well from which the king is said to have drunk during the battle. It is maintained by the Fellowship of the White Boar. I'm not even sure whether I'm supposed to do this, but if you listen, you can hear the well, the water actually dripping into the well from the spring. Can you hear it? Well, I don't know whether my picture's going to be that way good. Well, I don't know whether my picture's going to be pissed up or you're not going to see me or you're going to have my head cut off, but that's the end of my tour of Bosworth Field. One of the few things you're allowed to do in this lockdown is go to places as long as you're social distancing, and that's what I've done. Thanks for watching, peeps. Catch you all again. Bye for now. You hear the thunder? That's scary.